Good morning, everyone. Hope you're all having a great day today. So I was asked by a viewer recently to kind of do a video talking about my experience slash how I navigate life as a born-again believer who struggles with homosexuality, same-sex attraction, whatever you want to call it. And I want to quickly say before I go into that this is just kind of how I deal with it. And how I've navigated life. I'm not saying that this is going to work for everybody or that this is what everyone should do, but rather these things that I'm going to talk about, I've personally found to be very, very helpful. So those four things are community, mentality slash attitude, self-care, and having grace for yourself and just really focusing on God's grace for you. So the first and biggest thing that I always harp on is community. Humans were not meant to be alone. God makes that very clear. We are not meant to just live by ourselves. So obviously most people would then be like, okay, then how on earth do you expect to live a celibate life when, we were meant to have fellowship with other people? But having a life partner, so to speak, does not necessarily mean that that is the same as being able to have fellowship. You can 110% still have a thriving social life, community, whatever you want to call it, when you are celibate and single. Having people that you can talk to and having people that get you for real is so important to have. When we feel understood, we feel less alone. And likewise, when we also have people that we know who are going through the same thing as us, that makes it easier for us to go through it, or rather just less hard, because we know that other people are doing it with us. That's why you'll see so many different communities here on YouTube of people who are doing that. And when I was in college and I was first really kind of coming to terms with, my sexuality and how God kind of wanted me to navigate that, I was looking on YouTube for communities of people who were, struggling with same-sex attraction, who were Christians, but who are also, Bible believers, who are free grace, who understand that repenting of homosexuality or not living that lifestyle does not make us saved, does not get us saved. And that's something that I always hammer home with people, is that look, you repenting of this, living this celibate life, that's great and I'm all for it, but that does not make you more saved, or that does not keep you saved. And unfortunately, I feel like a lot of people who are on YouTube who are, believers who struggle with same-sex attraction, unfortunately, I feel like a lot of those people are like, I'm not gay anymore. I don't have any desires. And I'm going to be honest, that's not my experience. And I know a ton of people here on this channel, that's not their experience either. And unfortunately, I think we need to remember that the goal is salvation, not being straight. Being straight is not required to go to heaven. Rather, believing on the finished work of Christ alone is what's required to go to heaven. How we live after that is just how we serve God. And so when I was looking for other believers who had that same mentality, it was very hard to find that, which is literally part of the reason why I started this channel in the first place, is so that we can all have fellowship with one another, support one another, uplift one another. And it has been amazing meeting so many of you guys out there who also struggle with this, being able to talk to you guys, whether that be, via email, Zoom, in the comment section, whatever it may be, because that is so healthy. And I've found that is what encourages a lot of us. And encouragement is literally one of the biggest motivators to keep running the race that we have been put on. Sorry, I clap when I am making a point that I feel like is important. So community is so important wherever you can find it, and also just having, obviously, community in the Christian sense and in, the born again believer sense, but also having community outside, just having people who you can go to, who really love you and you can trust. That's just important as well, whether that's your family or people from a, whatever club, book club, sports team, just get involved in something that you can meet people. The second thing is attitude slash mentality. And I feel like for me, this was a lot of understanding that my life is not my own. I'm not necessarily here to enjoy my life. Rather, I'm here to serve God. And I guess kind of having that mentality of, instead of looking at all these, situations in which I feel like I'm missing out, like I really wish I had a partner. I really wish, there are still times to this day where I still am like, really would be nice to have a boyfriend, Remembering that God put you on this path for a reason is so important, and I guess motivating to keep on it. Whenever I have those, temptations to date or go back or whatever, I always remember all of the people that God has placed in my life through this channel, through just life in general. And I'm like, would that have happened if I had just chosen to live however I wanted, or to stay in a relationship, or to pursue a relationship? And I think about, this channel and this ministry and just all the ways in which God has allowed me to witness to people. And I'm like, that is so much more worth it. And that will be so much more worth it in the end than like me just enjoying myself and having a partner. I'd so much rather, get to heaven knowing that I, made a mark that God wanted, that I, really lived how God wanted me to, and helped potentially get people saved rather than being like, great, you had fun, but like you could have done X, Y, Z. You know what I mean? I'm not saying that you can't have fun in this lifestyle and living celibate, and that's something that I really want to hammer home. And I know that I've had a lot of people who are like, the older that you get, the harder it gets. And I understand that, and I'm not invalidating that. But I think that there are still things that we can do to make it worth, living. Obviously in life we're going to have suffering, and that's just a part of life, but that doesn't mean we have to just sit back and be like, oh, I guess that's that. No, we can get up and do things and figure things out that we can do to either occupy ourselves, occupy our time, change our mentality. So the third thing that I also wanted to talk about is self-care. And I feel like a lot of people kind of put down self-care, and I used to be one of those people as well, until I found out what self-care really is. Self-care is not like, oh, I'm gonna take a spa day, or like I could for some people, but what I found is that self-care is literally knowing how to live your life, set boundaries in a way that allows you to be the most mentally healthy. For me, that looks like taking a little bit of time every day to spend either talking to God, reading, doing something that relaxes my mind, that keeps me from like getting really on edge, because the longer that you bottle that up, the more unhealthy it's going to be. And the longer that we, again, keep bottling things up and, doing things and spreading ourselves too thin, the sooner we're going to experience burnout. And when you experience burnout, you're actually more likely to do something stupid and irrational, like, relapse, or I don't know. No, I've told you guys this a bunch of times. I'm in school studying to be a therapist, and literally my first class that I've ever taken, the biggest thing that they told us is self-care, 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 especially when you're in a helping field, or when you are a person who has a servant's heart or whatever. As a therapist, that's a very specific, realm, but also I feel like a lot of us born again believers, we have this servant mentality, as we're literally instructed to have in scripture. So it's important that we're taking care of ourselves and guarding our hearts so that we don't become burned out and do something stupid. For me, I, will sometimes have Zoom calls with people, and, I'll talk to people over email, and I love, 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 love doing that. That's like what I live for. But I also have to acknowledge and understand that like I can't do that at the drop of a hat. Whenever people ask me to do a call, or, even at work, if I'm asked to do something that I don't have time to do, I'm like, okay, like, let's figure out a time and a date to do this, because no, I can't do it today, or I can't do it tomorrow. Is there some time next week? I have this beautiful, beautiful, color-coded schedule that I absolutely love and adore. And I literally put blocks in for different activities, different, calls, people, whatever it might be. And I'm like, okay, where do I have my white space? And where do I also have time, where I'm putting that time aside to not do anything, or to do something that calms my mind? Because if I'm constantly spreading myself too thin, then I'm going to get burned out, and I'm not going to want to do those things that are, building other people up, that are, favors for people or whatever. Taking care of yourself allows you to better take care of other people. If you're not resting, then you're going to wear yourself too thin, and then you're almost not going to want to do those activities that are helping someone else or encouraging someone else, because you yourself are going to be not wanting to do anything. And the fourth thing, and one of the also most important things, is to have grace for yourself. I cannot emphasize this enough. When it comes to people who are same-sex attracted or struggling with homosexuality, I think most of us would say that we've tried the whole, pray it away thing, and it didn't really happen, and we still have these feelings. That's why we're literally living this celibate life. So God understands that we literally are living with this chronic feeling, this chronic thing. And while yes, there are times in which it might feel a lot lessened, for me, I feel like it's not as strong as it used to be, when I was a freshman in college, and, before I really chose to do this. There are 110% still times in which I will find myself messing up, or, dwelling on things that I shouldn't. And, we're fallen human beings. We're not perfect. We are literally going to sin daily. There are mistakes that are going to be made. Like, we can't put perfection on ourselves when we ourselves are not perfect. Again, that's literally why we needed Jesus's blood to cover all of our sins. That's why we're going to heaven, only because of what he did alone. So we need to have that grace for ourselves and understand that mistakes will be made. I'm not saying this to excuse any kind of sin, but rather to acknowledge our shortcomings and our inabilities as human beings to better have grace for ourselves and to better, one, lean on God during our weakness, because his strength is made more powerful during what's that verse? His strength is made perfect in weakness, but also so that we're not beating ourselves up, because that is just not going to do us any better. And not for nothing, but discouragement is one of like the strongest feelings that like will encourage you to like not go back to God. When we find ourselves falling, we need to get ourselves back up, dust ourselves off, and keep running the race that is set before us, because God put us on this race for a reason. So if you fall down, you know what? If you're running and the road is rocky, you're probably going to trip. And that is like how it is in life. But when you trip, you get yourself back up and you keep running, looking to Jesus, the author and perfecter of our faith. So I really hope this video helps whoever needed to hear this. I'm sorry. I feel like during some of these more like videos, I can sometimes come across as like tough love, and I'm sorry if I did. I promise that was not the case at all. But rather, I am very passionate about this because this is something that literally affects a very large portion of my life. It affects my life just entirely. And I know that there's a lot of other people on here who also struggle with homosexuality, same-sex attraction, who, you know, that also is the case for them. So I really wanted to make this video for you guys and, you know, really put it all out there. I really believe in being open and honest, and I try to be as open and honest with you guys as I'm able to be. So if anyone has any comments, questions, or concerns, do not ever hesitate to leave me a comment down below or shoot me an email at my email address, which will be right down here. Also, if you guys have any prayer requests as well, let me know of those as well. We also have a blog where we have a couple of people on this channel, and I always encourage everybody, if they have a story to tell or a testimony to share, to let me know of that. You can email it to me, but if you want to check out those stories that have been written by our fellow brothers and sisters, the link will be down below to the Christian Convos blog. I really hope this video helped. I just care about this topic so much because I know that it's one that isn't talked about very often, and yet there are so many people in this boat who struggle with this, and you know, we need the encouragement, we need the community. So this is why I'm doing what I'm doing. So with that, as always, have a lovely rest of your day, and God bless.